program, and our guest speaker today is going to be Deborah. So Deborah is the founder of Women Called Moses Coalition, which is a nonprofit organization that serves as an underground railway for survivors of domestic violence. Their goal is to end the cycle of abuse by providing education and resource to women and children in the South Dallas area. Deborah is very passionate and has dedicated several hours to educate and empower individuals affected by domestic violence. Deborah, if you have anything else you want to add to that or introduce yourself to our group.
I think it sums it all. And that's one reason that we're on this call tonight is to empower one another. And that's what I do. I'm very serious about the laws when it comes to women freedom. And I just believe if you're passionate about something, your work would exhibit itself. And so as we get into this Q&A and us girls connecting and feeling each other power from the universe, I think we'll learn a lot about one another and what I do in the community. We're going to make this fun, but we're going to make it where when you guys disconnect with me, we will always feel that connection. If we're in fear or if we need to be empowered, that we remember this particular day with all this energy on the phone.
And I just wanted to say that this is going to be recorded. So like if anyone wants to like leave early or anything like that, we will be having this recorded so you guys can watch this at a later time.
So Deborah, what inspired you to get into this line of work?
Believe it or not, I am a survivor, 3-time survivor. I was in an abusive relationship 3 times. My son's father was my abuser. I had a boyfriend, an abuser, and just a guy that I knew that was an abuser. So also my father abandoned my mother and my 3 siblings when we were very young. And I used to see my father beat my mom. My mother worked, even though she was a very strong woman. I seen the years of abuse that took a toll on her. And I believe it affected all of her children, my siblings, because it's learned behavior, and from anger to the physical abuse, to the financial abuse, to religion abuse, it's all there and affects kids. And so I believe that played a huge part in my life is seeing my father, because you never imagine mom and dad want to hurt their own children. So seeing that is devastating me. And as I got older, I realized how dysfunctional I was. And not only that, I'm from Houston, and back in the 80s, you didn't talk much about domestic violence. It was very taboo. And even in the churches, they would sweep it under the rug, you know, be submissive, stay home. There's no such thing as a divorce. God will curse you and you will curse yourself if you get a divorce, and you can never remarry once you leave this man. So I became so confused. I didn't know what abuse meant. I really did not know until I started Women Called Moses and learned so many things about all different types of women and background. That domestic violence is so complex because, again, growing up. So I worked in corporate America. I worked for the Dallas Mavericks. I worked for Ford Motor Company. I came from the corporate world. But even being in the corporate world, I couldn't get the help that I needed as a damaged woman, as a child dealing with domestic violence. So I felt that one day I was just inspired. I used to watch this movie all the time called A Woman Called Moses by Harriet Tubman, The Underground Railroad. And that it just felt like it was so parallel to my life. And I just started the Holy Spirit just started dealing with me. And I'm like, you know, I'm supposed to help women. I started having vision. And I'm like, helping women? Women are messy. No, I don't want to help women. No, I'm a little confused. I don't want to do that. And sure and behold, in 2003, I ended up opening up the shelter, didn't have any funds, didn't know anything about running a shelter. I didn't know anything about running a shelter. And at the time I was working for Rocket Ismail, which is a former Dallas Cowboy. And his background is Muslim, of course, his mother and his sibling. And so him and I would talk about religion and different things. And he asked me one day, he said, why are you not doing what God called you to do? And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you're supposed to be helping women. I'm like, whoa, I've heard that before. And he said, well, what would it take for you to do it? So back in 2003, he gave me like $25,000, which was unheard of. I'm like, you really giving me money to do what I want to do? So him and his wife wrote a check for $25,000. And I started trying to form, and he said, I'll pay to get a nonprofit. Don't laugh at me, guys. I didn't know what a 501c3 was. I'm like, a 503c, what? And so when I started Googling, looking it up, oh, that's nonprofit status for as your taxes, and people give you money for your nonprofit organization. And so that's what I learned about the 501c3. So I started this back in 2003. And that's what really inspired me, was from my childhood and my own experience.
And how have you, I know you founded the Woman Called Moses, but how have you seen it grow over the years?
It has truly been the work that I've done in the community. I always tell individuals this: I'm not your typical CEO and founder that sits behind the desk. I am the woman that actually, as the CEO, you would say I'm the case manager, I'm the pit bull, I'm the security guy, I'm all of that. I'm trained to do all of that. But I found that I wanted to rescue these women like Harriet Tubman. So when I would go out in the trenches and help these women get in a safe place, I connected to them. So other women started telling other women, oh, you need to call Women Called Moses. They can help you. This woman really know how to help people, and she really know how to save. She's like the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, like for the slaves. You know, it's like modern day slaves for women in the underground world dealing with domestic violence. And so we will get calls. I used to worry about, oh, how are people gonna call and know about us? How do we do? So I started off getting calls back in 2003, 4. We would get calls, maybe 5 calls a day. You looking for victims, and it's like, oh, how are they gonna learn about us? And all it took was about 10. I did a lot of work in the Pleasant Grove area. Probably when I started, it was 75% of our clients came from the Pleasant Grove area. And so those mostly my people in the inner city. And so they started telling other women. Then I started going to the Domestic Violence Task Force that they started many years ago, because there was a lawsuit, I think in the 80s, where 2 sisters felt that they couldn't get the service due to domestic violence. I believe Elba Garcia is the one that started the Domestic Violence Task Force. And I would just go to that task force. They didn't invite me. Somebody told me they was having a task force. And I walk in there, I don't see an African-American woman. I see everybody but an African-American woman. And I'm like, I gotta fight for my people. I gotta let them know that we need resources. There is no shelter in the southern sector of Dallas. And I would just go to these meetings, and I'm talking to Jan and Paige with Family Place, Genesis, Brighter Tomorrow. And I'm like, you guys have the money. I don't have the money. I'm a Black woman, and my people are crying out. You know, the churches are not helping. So you have to understand, I'm fighting for these women. So as them being the service providers and I'm coming in, I feel that I have to fight for the women in the southern sector of Dallas. So my tone is a heavy tone, because when I was dealing with abuse, my abuser wouldn't let me talk. The first thing he did was made me silence by the abuse, like slap me, shut up, you're not saying anything, you know. Or if I thought we was getting ready to fight, the first thing he went was always for my face, or they always want to choke you. And so that's what I was very fearful. So I became silent. But for some reason, every time I would go to that task force and I would even see the women, I'm like, they need to be more sensitive. They need to understand what I'm saying. So I had to really kind of calm down and start listening to them. And then they started listening to me, hearing my passion, knowing that I'm trying to make a difference in my community. And so after that, we started getting calls from police officers. We work very closely with Tarrant County and their DV world. So we get calls from Salvation Army, Mosaic, all the top shelters. When they're at capacity, we get calls. So when we started off with 5 calls a day, we probably get over 200 calls a day. women looking to flee on a national level. We don't just assist women in the DFW. Any woman that make contact with my office, we don't turn them away unless we just don't have nowhere to put them or there's no money in our budget. So we have seen this organization grow. Back in 2019, Mark Cuban gave us $100,000. I was doing North Texas Giving Day. And that's when I felt that people were really listening to me, because here the Dallas Maverick is giving us $100,000. And I just felt so special because it was Brighter Tomorrow thing. Genesis Family Place that received the money. And here's a little Black lady at an organization that's just been crying in the wilderness for a very long time. Now we're being noticed because we get 100,000. Then we received a grant from the Attorney General's office for $168,000. So when you get a government grant, you really feel like you're in now. You really feel like you are truly making a difference, because now you have some money and you're able to hire a staff, because mostly everyone assists me. I was the water bottle girl, the cook, the security woman. I was all of that. No one ever knew that I was a one-woman show, but the way marketing and technology, I made myself look like I had 3 different alias names, which they were all me. And so people thought I had 3 to 4 individuals working for me. And the whole time I would answer their phone and this guy, "Hi, my name is Bridget. How can I assist you?" And then they call me, "Hi, my name is Harriet. Hi, I'm Miss Deborah." So when they would have a complaint or something, it felt like we should have put them in a shelter. I was like, "I'm the supervisor. I understand. Let me see what we can do." So even when someone felt that a case manager needed to be in trouble, I was the supervisor. So I have seen us grow in that way.
We would love to know about your role, like a day in the life of, and your role in the organization. I know you touched up on a little bit, but what does a typical day look like for you?
My typical day is, I get the biggest mistake I make is once I turn my cell phone on. Okay, I turn my cell phone on. There's about 20 messages on there. We looking for a place. Call my office. We need a bed. So my energy level is already, I like to get up and meditate before I start my day. I can't always do meditation because the women's safety come before my meditation. I feel what's in me is in me, which is the Holy Spirit, which guides me. And so when I get up, I run and I start off with that cell phone, emails, you know, and I get up in the morning, even though with COVID and we'll talk about that later, my typical day before COVID was, I go to the office, see who is it that I have to transport or who I have to go underground. I have to prioritize who life is in danger. And believe it or not, everyone that calls, life was in danger. So you just had to pick and choose. So I try to pick the ones that are high risk and have children first. They're much harder for me to have to transport because it's only me and the mother. And at the same time, I have to watch the perpetrator so he doesn't murder me, the kids, and the mother. And so I have to really decide who is it, or is it such a high risk that I have to wait another time? And so my typical day is trying to put women in a safe place. Also, I'm trying to return phone calls. Also, my typical day, I have to ask for money to keep this organization going. Also, I have to pray with people. Sometimes I just have to talk to individuals. Now there's 3 personalities that I have. One is I have the girl attitude. Say, girl, you need to chill, stop screaming at me because it ain't gonna go down like that. So that's the girl with the attitude that I have to be. Then I have to be the professional. Hi, we're here to assist you. I know you're an attorney, you're a professional. However, I'm here to put you in a safe place. Are you in a safe place? Yes, I am. I know you're very educated, but this is not about education right now. This is about our safety, okay? So you're gonna have to really trust me and we're gonna have to work together. Okay, then I get the one that said, I done went back 4 or 5 times because you guys couldn't help me, so now she's mad. So now I have to do some quick counseling. So a lot of times I'm dealing with like 3 different personalities that I'm dealing with. So a typical day for me is just putting out fires all day. In between trying to keep money coming into this organization. Also, I'm married in between, and I have grandkids that call me, oh, I'm at school and it wasn't a good day, Grandma. I need to talk to you. Then my husband, are you okay? I need to talk to you. Let me tell, okay, honey, hold on. No, 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 no. I need to tell you, you forgot to pay the light bill. So I'm sitting there like I did forget to pay the light bill. Oh my God, our light's gonna be cut off. So these are some of the things that I do in a typical day.
How has COVID-19 affected the shelter and rates of domestic violence from
Oh my God, it has tremendously affected us. One is, if you do an intake, someone calls you and they need services. When they call in, probably 98% of our clients have children. So if she have 3 to 4 children and we putting her in the shelter in a 1 bedroom, okay, we have 9 bedrooms and we fill those all up with kids. Well, we can no longer do that due to COVID because of social distancing. So we can no longer do that. So now we don't even know if half of the women have been tested, because at the time, remember, if you didn't have the symptoms, then you couldn't get tested, or if you didn't have insurance, you don't have transportation. So the risk became higher where the case managers were getting COVID because we couldn't test these women and we didn't know who had COVID. So now we can't just take women by their words and say, hey, we want to place you in place, because we have to fight against COVID as well as the perpetrator. And also, people they was giving more money before COVID. Right now, because they have lost jobs and grants and funding, it's not a top priority to them to give money to a nonprofit when they need money for their own family members and friends. So we're not getting the money that we used to get before COVID. And not only that, when it comes to counseling, if I'm sitting here and I'm counseling her on a Zoom, we really don't know if the perpetrator is there or there's other gadgets that are connected that can cause us to be in danger. So what we used to do, the face-to-face, where she felt more safe, knowing that she can make contact and I'm there to assist her, we can tell sometime by the body language, she's afraid that the perpetrator is getting ready to walk in, or she fearful that there's a gadget in the house that he has with iClouds or whatever it may be. We don't know if she disconnected iClouds and now he's taping us and we're all, so it has made it very difficult for us. Also for our women and children, that the women that have kids, it's very hard for the education. I can see the kids are not as they feel that they can sleep all day. They feel that, hey, school is school. I did what I needed to do online. And so the mother can't focus because she's more concerned about the safety than the education. We find that more our kids are being abused at home, and the mothers are not making contact because they figured that there's nowhere for them to go. And so the high risk for child abuse is a lot higher than what it was prior to COVID. So we do see the increase in the cases. The women feel that the police officers, we know that they try to defund the police officers. So the women are not feeling that the men are on their side. A lot of time our women feel that the police officers are not coming out soon enough when they do call. So now the women just like, hey, we'll just take the abuse until this COVID is over. So we have seen the difference before and now with COVID.
And what can we do as individuals to uplift women in our community?
Like now, you guys are uplifting me, even though I'm a CEO and I'm a founder, but the fact that you guys found Women Called Moses, and the fact that seemed like we've already connected before. And I think it's because of the passion we all have. And I think we're not focused on our religion. We're not focused on the way we look. I think we're more about how we feel mentally. Because I feel that if we're mentally and we feel that we as women are empowering each other, we're not just doing lip service like, oh, I read this today, and they text you all these little quotes, but they don't mean it. Well, when you can feel that and you can see that, and that's what I feel right now, that we are empowering one another, one, and two, because again, you guys, it's a lot of agencies out here doing great work, but the fact that I don't know much about you ladies, but I want to know much. And I want to know, like, in your world, what do y'all do every day just to keep your sanity and to be inspired and to inspire other women. How do we use what you guys have and what I have and to make it stronger? How do we go to legislator and change the laws when it comes to women? I still feel that all women are in bondage. I feel that we as women can do better, but because of fear, or sometimes we're afraid of rejection, or we don't know what we're walking into. Oh, we might be judged, or your family look at you and say, don't get involved with that, or I think you should stay away from that. I don't know. So then you start hearing a little negative talking over here, and then we start self-talking like, yeah, maybe we should. Well, I grew up as a little Pentecostal girl, the little girl that couldn't cut her hair, we couldn't wear pants, you couldn't have sex, you couldn't listen to secular music. There's no such thing as a boyfriend. The Holy Spirit will show you who your husband is. And so a lot of ladies in other races or nationality or religion, we all have something in common, because it's like we're all in some type of bondage, but how do we inspire one another? How do we really make changes? And if you're prejudiced, why are you prejudiced? I think people are prejudiced because they don't know certain things. Like when you guys leave from this conversation, I want y'all to know about Black women. We do have attitudes, but y'all have attitudes too. So I think we all have attitudes. That's one. We like certain foods. Y'all like certain food. But I like food like cornbread. I like mustard greens, candy yams, smothered pork chop. We're not supposed to eat pork, but you have to understand, in the Black community, coming and growing up as slaves, that's all we ate was whatever the pig had there. So it's a cultural thing, because for so many years. And so it's about survival. So do I let my kids go hungry? I don't want them to eat pork, but that's all we can afford. So people don't understand. It's not that, we disrespect other religion. It's just the fact that we're talking about survival in my community. We're up against crack cocaine on every street. We got drug dealers on every street. There's liquor stores. You guys practice, when I go to church, I used to say this about Muslims, is that, oh, they so disciplined. They know how to pray. Shoot, I want to pray 4 times a day. But I'm so busy on these cell phones, I'm doing this and that. But I think we all can learn from, and that's how you inspire me. Okay, Deborah, how many times did you pray today? Girl, I only prayed 1 time today because I was so busy. But that don't mean I don't love or care about you, or that's a bad thing. And if I eat pork, I probably wouldn't eat pork if I had some money to go buy some chicken and fish. And I don't have a way to go to a seafood place. I don't even know about seafood because we can afford seafood. So that's why our cholesterol is high. That's why we eat bad, because most of our kids Roman noodles. Well, my friend from China, her kids don't want Chinese food. They want American food, but the daddy and mom eats Chinese food, and the kids don't know, we want a hamburger, mama. Well, y'all were born over there. We was born right here. So we all kind of talk and laugh. But I think if we learn more about one another, that I think we can inspire each other by just learning about one another. So does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. What advice would you give to someone who is wanting to go into this line of work?
Please learn about policy, procedures. Know what you're getting into. A lot of people say, oh, okay, I want to do domestic violence. But there's so much to learn about domestic violence, because there are so many barriers still up when it comes to women in general. There is a lack of housing for all women, not just Black, Hispanic, Asian, whomever. There is a lack of transitional housing. So how can you help these women when you don't have resources? So even before you get in here, you have to know, what do you have to offer these women? And a lot of times we get in it because of our emotions. What happened? It is okay to get in it because it happened to you, but how do you make a difference? I didn't realize, I can identify when my perpetrator broke my ribs. They say, how do you know when a woman lies? When she began to tell me her story, sometimes I can still feel when he broke my ribs. So if somebody tells me something is broken, I know the words they're going to use and I can see it in their face and I can feel it. If a woman tells me she has been raped, I know. Like they'll say, I smell so and so. It's like if I, well, when I got raped, it was a guy that had just gotten out of prison. And he said the body smell, his scent was like oil. It was very nasty while he was raping me. So when women describe how they've been raped, I can identify and I can relate. So I'm not going to re-victimize her by not believing her story. When they tell me he has choked her, I know when they're telling the truth. I know when sometimes my women call, it's the end of the month and they've spent all their food stamps and they just want a hotel to stay in until they can get their check for next month. But I also can understand when a woman calls me and she's in distress because her husband has full control of the money. So I believe if you learn about domestic violence, what these women go through, you know, children that are being bullied in school because they didn't take a shower, but kids don't know that he's living on the streets, but they're being bullied because they're homeless. Well, kids don't want to talk about that when they go to school. So you also have to identify the kids first to help them, because what happens is if the mother takes these kids in a shelter, these kids are already damaged. So they're going to hurt other kids if you don't hurry up and build a relationship with these children before they go into a shelter, because again, all this is learned behavior. So you have to identify what you're dealing with and how you can help. So a lot of people just want to get in this, oh, I heard that you can get free money and they pay you very well. And also, girl, that happened to my grandma and this and that. And I want some people to know, but they're not there to give them resources. And it's my stress level. And I know I have PTSD because I've seen women get shot, have been shot. We've been shot at. I have jumped in vehicles. I have seen women come in where they have been beat with a hammer. I have seen where women have gotten their hair cut off. I've seen where perpetrators have bored, this lady from Nigeria, her husband took the kid's dog and boiled the dog, actually cooked the dog on the stove just to control the children. So I've seen it, I've heard it. So when these women come to me, I can identify this. And sometimes in the Muslim community, we don't get a lot of Muslim women because they don't see women that are familiar that can relate to them. So they'll go back and take their abuse, or they're very fearful to leave their perpetrator. So I would love for more women, whether you're a Muslim, whether you this or you that, let these women see there's a high volume of women, whatever nationality or religion they are. That's what I would love to see, and tell anybody when you get in this line of work, know what you're doing, learn the laws, how we can change the laws. If you're going to law school right now, maybe you can work with some of the shelters to change the law, to advocate, lobbying. We can't lobby. So our hands are tied on a lot of things. So there's so many ways we can give back. Now think of it like this. If we only have 4 shelters in the city of Dallas, and everyone called those shelters, if you get 200 women, if I just told y'all earlier that 200 women call our office a day looking for a place, you can imagine how many calls Family Place Genesis is getting, Brighter Tomorrow and Mosaic, how many calls they're getting. Now think about if they have 75 rooms and women are already in there. What happened to the other women that does not get the service or cannot go into a shelter? Imagine in your head how many women out there that's living in fear. How many? There's more women that have to go back to a perpetrator because there's not room for her to go or her children. Imagine a Muslim woman walking into a shelter and she has her veil over her face. You don't think she's going to be judged? That's the first thing. And a woman can feel where she's being judged. You don't think if I go in there screaming and hollering, hey, I got 4 kids. Oh, there go that Black woman. Oh, no, she has an attitude. No, she's going to be judged. You have a white woman that goes in there. Maybe she hasn't taken a bath in 4 or 5 days. You cannot get people to work with domestic violence if you're going to judge an individual. If you're in the judging business and not in the business to help these women and children. So that's what I believe, that you really need to know this is something you want to do. Know that what do you have to give back to help these women? Learn the laws, grant writing. If we had more people, the average grant writer you have to pay is at least a retainer of $5,000. $5,000. And it's not guaranteed. So if I give you $5,000, it's not guaranteed you're going to get me a grant. Well, I just given away almost $25,000 the first quarter, and we're broke and we don't even have a grant. If you know that, hey, you can help a woman get a divorce. How many women can really afford a divorce? During COVID, so many women can't get their divorces now because there's not enough attorneys that would do it pro bono. It's very difficult to get through the hotlines right now through legal aid because either the staff, they're home, they're not giving 100%. You can't get the same quality of work that we were getting before COVID because everybody, oh, I'm at home, honey, I get unemployment. I'm getting a stimulus check. They doubled up on my food stamps. And girl, I don't have to work. Oh, girl, and then we went to the church. They gave us all this food and stuff. Honey, I don't have to work. I don't get up till 11 o'clock. And then I call my boss and maybe we have a client or two. And what people don't understand, you're hurting the people that really need the help because you're not taking what you do serious. Even though you're at home, but you made a conscious effort to take an oath and somebody trusted you to work for them. And now you still work for them, but you're not giving them the quality of work. So I hope that helped.
No, definitely it did. And what do you think the legal system is lacking when it comes to protecting individuals going through domestic violence?
I think the protective orders, they could do better with protective orders because in certain communities, it's causing women to get murdered because of the protective orders. I believe also we're dealing with the gun control, and I think they don't understand how, I think they do, the legal system, but what they don't understand in our community is so easy to get a machete, any type of gun, any type of gun, weapon, these perpetrators have. And I think they still not taking that serious. I think at one time they were confiscating guns once you have an offense. But the thing of it is, these guys can get these guns all day long on the street. So it doesn't matter. So that's not working. But I think if the judges really understood, and I think police officers, when they come out, they need to be able to identify and know the signs that without this woman saying anything, that her life is in danger. Don't keep telling her, well, if he does it again, give us a call. For real? I thought y'all were going to do something. And we're getting more women and getting caught up in the system because the perpetrators are very manipulative now. They bite themselves, and when a police officer come out, it looks like she's the more aggressive one, and she's the one that gets to go to jail. So now the perpetrators are working the system with the judges. They make them take anger management classes. Well, you can pay somebody to give you a certificate. How do you know they really took the class? BIP. You know, all these classes and programs, these guys only get angry and just say, hey, that's because the judge want me to take it. But if I pay an organization $500, give me my certificate at the table, you don't think they're going to do that? So I think in the legal system, we can do better. I think they need to sentence the first time offenders. Stop telling them, you know, if they take these classes that, you know, they'll wipe it off. It won't go on their profile. I think that the first time you do it, I think you automatically should do 10 years. Automatic, 10 years, straight up. And I think those are the things we need to fight for. What is 1 year? As soon as he get out, he's going back and he's going after her. 1 year for knocking somebody's teeth out or, you know, busted her eye or her head, threatening her, verbal abuse. I mean, and you only get 1 year for beating somebody that was helpless. I think they should change the legal system. I think, oh yeah, most definitely protective orders and gun laws.
And in your mission, on your website, you have mentioned that you have an underground railway for survivors. Can you elaborate on that, or like what that is?
The Underground Railroad, I want you to think about slavery, and it's just the way it is. All women that are dealing with domestic violence is under slavery. Doesn't matter who she is. She's being beaten, whether she's not having sex with her husband the right way, her boyfriend, or she's being raped, or she's being beaten because she didn't stack the dishes up in the cabinet right, or she talked back to her significant other, or she dressed an inappropriate way. That woman is in bondage. She's in slavery because this was what the perpetrator is telling her. You go by my rules. You do what I say do. That is not giving respect to a woman in authority. You're treating her like slavery, where you can and cannot go. Well, back in the days in slavery, that's what they told slaves. You here, we own you. You don't have sex with massa, he beat you. The husband couldn't do anything. Kind of fast forward, if he raped her, had children by her massa, then guess what? You just have the children because those more slaves for us. Well, today, in the Underground Railroad for women called Moses, if we don't take these women underground, they have no peace, no life. So when the shelters, the big shelters are at capacity, we put them in safe places. We can't tell you these places and how we do it, but we put them underground. But what we always tell them, you cannot look back and you cannot go back. So when we talk to them and we do an exit plan for them, they have to understand that we cannot look back. And sometimes you even have to leave your family behind, but it doesn't mean you can't come back and get them. But one thing about Harriet Tubman, she never lost a passenger. The 19 years that we've been working here at Women Called Moses, I thank God we have not lost a passenger.
And my last question for the night is, what are some prevalent issues in DFW regarding domestic violence and the way DV is approached?
One of the prevalent issues is that when police comes out, most of the women always feel like they're being re-victimized, one. Two is every time women go into shelters, there's not enough transitional housing. So we tell the women to leave, and then when we put them in a shelter and it's time to exit in the next 30, 60, or 90 days, where does she go? What happens? She ends up going back to the perpetrator because we don't have transitional housing. And so you can imagine all the women out here that trust us and believe, and we put them in a safe place. And then next thing you know, when it's time for them to exit, we have nowhere to place them. Well, guess what? We just put a bullet in her head almost. Because where does she go? And then if she goes back to her family member, they talk about it and say, I told you not to leave. Just take it. So we send the wrong message out. So there's not enough housing, transitional housing. There's also not enough jobs where people will give a woman a good job, a survivor, without making her feel like she's a slave, like she has to mop, she has to do domestic work, or she has to do the work nobody else wants to do. Are you talking down to her? So most of these women, the problem we have is trying to get a job where they can support themselves. Four is a lot of women have to stop their education just to try to make ends. So there's no system out here where a woman continue to go to school and still get all the help she needs as a victim, because the first thing they tell, well, you need to quit school because your top priority, ma'am, is to get a job. Well, she's almost about to finish. So there's another part of her dream because she has to stop going to school, because it's like, you know, there's not enough out here for these women with these resources to continue their education, transportation,